welcome everybody. I know a lot of people are still filtering in, but welcome to our first and what we hope will be our last virtual grantee reception, God willing. It's so wonderful just to see everybody's faces as you're popping in and to see some of the chats. I'm sure you're all feeling the lack of that personal connection that we've all been feeling. And it's just going to be really wonderful, we think, to have all our colleagues together in one place. The virtual format actually gives us a little bit more of an opportunity to come together. We have, people from all across the state. Makes it a lot easier to gather from your own living rooms. And we, certainly people from all aspects of the foundation. So we'll be welcoming our grantees, of course, and our fellows, our donors, our sponsors, our legal intern fellows, law students, trustees, our volunteers. So really folks and colleagues and friends from all across our continuum here. So it's wonderful. While we aren't able to see each other personally, it's wonderful to have us all here together as a community. Much of the spring is really spent cocooned in grant making, and the trustees as well. But fall is the time that we generally will get out and be able to connect with all of you and meetings like this and our receptions at other legal aid organizations or events and committee work and site visits. So, we're definitely feeling that lack. So thank you all for being here, for coming together, for pivoting. We all hate that word at this point, but for helping us pivot to this sort of new format. We have about an hour-long speaking program for you this evening. Six people, different perspectives of the Foundation's work. We'll talk to you a little bit about what their experiences of the Foundation have been, and we hope that'll give you a nice sort of round picture of the work of the Foundation and what we've been up to recently. And we really just hope this time together is going to be a very relaxed, low-key, enjoyable, and a time for all of us to get to know each other, and for you to get to know a little bit more about the work of our grantees mainly and our volunteers. So we hope you will just sit back and relax and sip your signature cocktail and just enjoy the program. After the program, Allie will have the opportunity to put us into breakout rooms where we can get back to the chatting and the just catching up. Again, very informal, no pressure, just really meet and greet, introducing ourselves and just checking in on how we're all doing in this crazy time. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our board president, Dick Grahn. And I think most of you know Dick very well. He's served on our board of trustees for many years now. And in March, he was elected president, having absolutely no idea what was coming his way. And we are, just so grateful. He really, stepped in, kept us calm, and really, as have all the trustees, really just sort of helped us to keep our eyes on the prize, remember our mission, and be creative and just be ourselves and go with the flow. And so we are really grateful for the leadership of all of our trustees and Dick. So I will turn it over to Dick now, who will sort of be the MC of our program.
Thank you, Susanna. This is terrific. We had, I think, 175 RSVPs, which is the most, I think, for any reception that we've hosted. And so you 175 brave souls have agreed to humor us as we try to wend our way through this Zoom reception. We'll try to have fun, but we want to acknowledge the great work that all of our grantees, trustees, and our awardees have performed for us this year. And if anybody sees a fly land on my hair, please let me know. I want to take care of that. We have Justice Bud and Justice Agnes have agreed to appear. So if you are there, we certainly thank you for your support. We also have a number of our trustees, and probably too many to identify personally, but if you are a trustee, would you just wave so that people can recognize that you are there? Great. And in particular, I wanted to identify our Vice President, Angela McConaughey-Skippers. She's there. And our Treasurer, David Henderson. David's there. And Secretary Perry Wu. And our past President, Harvey Weiner. First and foremost, I think we want to just make sure that you're all well. The last time we gathered, as Susanna said, was in early March of this year at Suffolk Law School for our annual meeting. And really it was just weeks after that that everything shut down. I say that, but we recognize that everything didn't shut down. And it was the responsibility of you grantees to continue the effort to make sure that all of your clients had representation, that we were in a position to fund the kinds of programs that were so critically needed. And we certainly all share a sense of common loss, but we also have to acknowledge that it's the communities of low income who have certainly suffered greatly as a result of the pandemic. And on top of the pandemic, we're in the midst of a national reckoning on racial justice, and probably the most contentious political election cycle that we've seen in certainly recent years. Added to that, the recent loss of our brightest beacons of justice, Chief Justice Gantz and Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. It all seems so very foreign and overwhelming. But despite these challenges, I think that there is no better group prepared to pick up the torch and address the unfinished work of Justices Ginsburg and Gantz in pressing forward for equal justice than the distinguished group of grantees that we're celebrating here this evening. Indeed, we have much to celebrate. We're grateful for the work of our 2020-2021 IOLTA grantees, and we're also honoring one of our most dedicated volunteers, Paul Klehm. Paul is receiving the President's Award a little bit later in the program. So welcome to our grantees, welcome to Paul, welcome to his colleagues, and all of the friends of the Mass Bar Foundation. And it goes without saying that we need to convey a special thanks to Mass IOLTA, Hannah Kilson and its Executive Director, Jane Terrell. You do amazing things. You've maintained the integrity of the IOLTA program, and you make sure that the funds are fairly and prudently distributed where they're most needed, indeed across the Commonwealth. So thank you, and thank you, Jane, in particular. We know that you've agreed to serve well beyond your retirement to keep things running smoothly until we return to normal or until we figure out what that new normal might be. As most of you know, our MBF fellows assist with the grant review process each spring. This year we had 87 fellows. They stepped up to the plate. They read all of the grant applications. They conducted virtual site visits, and they provided the reports so necessary to the trustees to make the careful decisions that we need to make sure that the funds that we are entrusted with go to those programs that are most deserving. We literally could not do it without the work of our trustees, so thank you very much. And the work of the MBF could not continue without the support of our law firm and corporate partners. They are in the program, but let me identify them: Nutter, Mintz, Peabody and Arnold, the law firm of Balvey and Langa, Charles River Associates, Century Bank, the International Network of Boutique Law Firms, Meehan Boyle, Black and Bogdanau, and of course, the Mass Bar Association. And speaking of the Mass Bar Association, I'd like to invite Denise Murphy, who was just recently sworn in as the president of the MBA, to come forward and offer a brief greeting. Denise?
Thank you so much, Dick. I am so happy to be here tonight to offer greetings from the Massachusetts Bar Association and to extend our heartfelt congratulations to our own Paul Klehm on his well-deserved honor this evening. The MBA is proud to work in partnership with the MBF. I am a proud MBF fellow. In fact, I think most of the MBA offices are MBF fellows as well. Please allow me to introduce my fellow officers on this call: Tom Bond, Damian Turco, Grace Garcia, and Tori Mayer. Each of us, just like you, understands how important it is to support access to justice in our state. The legal aid programs in Massachusetts are providing a legal lifeline to so many, especially now in this COVID world. For those of you here representing legal aid organization, I want to express our sincere gratitude for the essential and heroic work that you've been doing on the front lines in our communities across the Commonwealth. Volunteering with the MBF gave me insight into what you do on an everyday basis. Thanks to you, people have a place to turn for help with housing and benefits, access to healthcare, employment and consumer issues, and all of the issues that this pandemic has brought to the forefront. It is truly inspirational to see the legal aid and the pro bono community rally now and over these past few months. No doubt you will continue to do so in the months to come to address these tremendous needs. On behalf of the MBA, thank you. As many of you know, one of my primary goals for this year is to focus on lawyer well-being. It is a critical need for the members of our profession as we tend to the needs of the community at large. There's a tremendous amount of research out there that tells us that doing good and helping others actually boosts our own physical and mental health, as does being part of a community. So, being part of a philanthropic community like the MBF, and in turn, supporting all of the amazing legal aid organizations is really good for you from a well-being perspective. It can be a powerful counterbalance to the stress and the challenges we all face, especially now as we take care of our clients. We all need more positive energy in our lives. Being part of the MBF just makes you feel good. So thank you to the foundation, to the fellows, and especially to the legal aid organizations here today. We at the Massachusetts Bar Association are proud to stand with you, salute you, and we wish you all the success in your work in the upcoming year. Stay safe and be well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Denise. Those are great words, and I think it's reflective of the symbiotic relationship that the MBF has with the MBA. Neither of us could do what we do without each other. So thank you very much, and we look forward to a continuation of that great relationship.
My pleasure.
Most of you know that that the MBF sponsors IOLTA grant programs. But you should also know that we have other initiatives we support with the help of our donations. And for our donors, we thank you very much. These are programs that focus on educating the judiciary through the Falkner Institute that Justice Agnes now leads, as well as programs for young students from high school through law school, with the goal of sparking a passion for seeking justice and supporting the next generation of legal aid warriors. The MBF is proud to support the MBA's high school mock trial program, the SJC's Judicial Youth Corps, and our own MBF Legal Intern Fellowship Program. Unfortunately, the mock trial program and the JYC had to be canceled this year because of COVID, but our legal intern fellowship program flourished. We were able to award stipends of $6,000 to 5 extremely impressive law students for their work with nonprofit legal aid organizations over the summer. I'm going to turn it over now to our Vice President, Angela McConaughey-Skippers, who chairs our Legal Intern Fellowship Program Committee, to tell you more about this year's distinguished class of Legal Intern Fellows. Angela?
Sorry about that. Thank you, Dick, and a good evening to everyone. For the past several years, it has been my honor and privilege to chair our Legal Intern Fellowship Committee. In March, we received applications from law students all over the country who are planning summer internships at Massachusetts-based nonprofits. And our committee has the very difficult task of choosing from among very talented law students. The stipends are $6,000 each and are meant to be generous to allow the students to immerse themselves fully in the critical work they are doing without having to take on additional jobs to make ends meet. It is our hope, as Dick mentioned, that these summer experiences will lead to a deeper understanding of the legal needs of lower income communities and possibly create a spark that will lead to increased pro bono participation in whatever practice area they enter, or even to a career in public interest law. It is so critical that we cultivate the next generation of legal aid attorneys, and this is how the MBF does its part. This year, the MBF awarded 5 fellowship stipends, 4 from our Fellows Fund, funded by contributions of the MBF Fellows. So thank you to all our fellows here today. And 1 from the Smith Family Fund, which awards 1 stipend annually in memory of attorney Clark Smith. Of course, this was an unusual summer, to say the least. In fact, we weren't sure until the last minute that internships would be able to go on as planned. The original proposals outlined their direct work with clients on site at the various agencies, so there was a little scrambling. But we are so pleased that all 5 students were able to pivot to remote work, and all seem to have had very full experiences and to have added much needed support to the legal staff under sourced organizations. This year's MBF Legal Intern Fellows are Amanda Cooper, a student at Western New England School of Law. Amanda interned at Community Legal Aid in their Veterans Program. Travis Fife, a student at Harvard Law School, who interned at Lawyers for Civil Rights. Sheila Ramirez, a student at Western New England School of Law, who interned at Greater Boston Legal Services in the Domestic Violence Unit. Elaine Zong was our Smith Fellow. Elaine is a student at Harvard Law School, and Elaine interned at Greater Boston Legal Services, Asian Outreach Unit. And finally, Madison Picard, a student at Roger Williams University School of Law. Madison interned at the Victim Rights Law Center in Belchertown. I am happy to report that 2 of our LIFP Fellows, Madison Picard and Amanda Cooper, have joined us this evening. Madison has agreed to say a few words about her experience this summer. Before turning over the mic to Madison, I'd like to thank the other members of the LIFP Committee, Corey Carvalho, Marguerite Grant, and Melissa Langa. I'd like to thank any attendees this evening from the LIFP Fellows Law Schools or the agencies where they work this summer. Thank you for the invaluable contribution you have made and are making to the development of these future lawyers. Thank you very much. Now over to Madison.
Thank you, Angela. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So as Angela mentioned, my name is Madison. I am a current 2L at Roger Williams School of Law. So in my experience, the best internships are unpaid, and that's because in my unbiased experience, the best internships are also in public interest law. The Legal Intern Fellowship Program allows students like me to pursue a career in public interest law without making sacrifices along the way, and for that I'm very grateful. I had the privilege of being a legal intern fellow over the summer while I interned with the Victim Rights Law Center. For those of you who don't know, the Victim Rights Law Center provides free legal representation to victims of rape and sexual assault. I was so confident that I wanted to intern with the VRLC that I applied for an intern position that didn't even exist yet in the Belchertown office. But thankfully it all worked out. I was not so confident when I applied for the Mass Bar Foundation Intern Fellowship Program, but as I scrolled through the prior recipients, I saw one of my now supervisors, Nora, listed, and it felt like a full circle moment. This summer was definitely unprecedented, to say the least, which seems to be the word of the year. I wasn't sure how a virtual internship would be, but once I really nailed remembering to turn off the mute button, it really surpassed my expectations. I learned so much from the VRLC. I learned practical skills like how to prepare a client for a difficult hearing or how to write a letter to the Social Security office with the perfect, demanding but nice tone. I learned useful tools, the kind that can't be taught in a classroom, tools like comforting a client over the phone or strategically using your pets to build rapport with child clients. But I also learned lessons about things like the power of empathy. I learned about how to remind a client that they are being heard and how to really listen. One of the priorities of the VRLC is the principle that justice looks different to every survivor. For one survivor, it may mean getting their perpetrator expelled from school, and for another, it may mean not taking any legal action at all. Coming from law school, this concept was a bit foreign to me, but after this summer, I've learned how important this idea is, and I hope to one day have a career in helping survivors seek out their version of justice, whatever that may be. I'm so grateful for the wonderful VRLC staff who made this such a great experience for me, and for the clients who let me listen in to some of the most intimate moments of their lives. And lastly, I'm beyond grateful for the Mass Bar Foundation and all of its supporters for making this opportunity possible for me. Thank you.
Madison, what a terrific presentation. You make us so proud. But remember, both Madison and Amanda, that this stipend is a kind of seed funding. We look forward to your being able to take this experience and move forward in legal services. But we certainly appreciate the work that you did. And I'm sure the grantee organizations with whom all of the interns were involved appreciate the hard work that was done in very trying times. So thank you very much. That's great. And now let's move to our IOLTA grantees. We celebrate you this evening because of the work that you do to increase the access to justice for all citizens across the Commonwealth. This year, through our IOLTA grants program, the MBF awarded $2.6 million to 93 programs at 59 organizations. Many of you have representatives here, and the full list can be found at our website or in the program that accompanies the event tonight. What makes the MBF grant making unique, of course, is that we have a statewide reach and impact. The MBF funded programs that can be found in every corner of the Commonwealth, and they range from tiny community-based nonprofits to large regional legal service organizations. These programs assist thousands of low-income individuals and families who are struggling with legal issues related to immigration, domestic violence, housing, access to special education services for kids, healthcare, discrimination, and whose struggles were only exacerbated by the pandemic. For many clients, these programs will make the difference between poverty and self-sufficiency, between illness and health, and between despair and hope. The legal aid organization staff here with us tonight exemplify the best of the MBF's mission. They will stretch every dollar that we give them and will work tirelessly to benefit those most in need of legal assistance. This year, we've learned just how truly essential you are. Many of you served on the front lines of the pandemic. Not everyone stood still, and in many cases, legal aid staff literally put their lives on the line in order to continue helping their clients. To our MBF grantees, the work you do is as difficult as it is essential, and I hope rewarding. Our justice system and communities are stronger because of your efforts. On behalf of the Mass Bar Foundation, we thank you most sincerely for your perseverance and your commitment and all that you have done and all that you will do this year on behalf of the most vulnerable neighbors in our Commonwealth. As we often do at these receptions, we ask a grantee representative to share some thoughts regarding the legal service environment in which you all interact. This year, we've asked Jackie Bowman, the Executive Director of GBLS, to be our grantee speaker. Certainly GBLS is on the front lines of the most pressing issues facing low-income clients related to the pandemic. Access to benefits, housing, healthcare, employment, domestic violence, consumer issues, education, advocacy, and much, much more. So this year in particular, we thought that Jackie would be an ideal person to provide the big picture account of how the pandemic is impacting the legal aid community and its clients. Jackie's been the executive director of GBLS for almost a decade and is also a valued MBF fellow. She initially started work at GBLS as a senior attorney and then managing attorney of the family law unit. She left GBLS in 1991 to work at Mass Law Reform. Jackie returned to GBLS in 1998 as an associate director and then later became deputy director. She became executive director in 2011 and has shepherded the organization through, as we know, many ups and downs. She's a nationally recognized expert in family and juvenile law, as well as law practice management. She serves on the Access to Justice Commission of the SJC, as well as numerous boards and nonprofit organizations. Clearly, Jackie is a tireless advocate for legal aid and access to justice. We are very proud to support the important work of GBLS, and we are grateful to Jackie for making the time to be with us here tonight. I would like to turn it over now to Jackie so that she can share her perspectives on the field. Jackie?
Thank you, Dick. First, I want to thank you, the MBF and trustees, for the support that you've given to foster access to justice. It's important for our most vulnerable neighbors. Your support has enhanced my program's capacity to serve more people in targeted areas. And I want to thank you on behalf of our staff, our board, but especially our clients. 2020 has been a really challenging year on many levels, especially in the context of access to justice. Many of our neighbors already depended upon civil legal aid, and statewide, we continue to turn away a significant number of people due to a lack of resources and the need to prioritize our limited services to those who need us most. The economic impact of the pandemic has led even more people to seek our services. And I'm certain that the experiences that I'm going to talk about from GBLS's perspective resonate with many of the MBF grantees. We all began this year with a wide range of expectations and laser focused on the 2020 elections. We went from a mostly healthy, thriving economy to what we have today, overnight. Now, deep into the year, and roughly 6 months after most of us have pivoted to remote work, we find ourselves trying to socially distance, wear face coverings in public, adjusting to Zoom, and largely quarantined to limited places. Today, tensions from the ongoing tragedies of deaths of Black people at the hands of authority, like George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and most recently, Jonathan Price, are continuing to increase. These twin crises have many of us reviewing our mission, our core values, and how we connect to the communities that we serve. And finally, how we can continue to provide needed services in this economy. While we've always viewed our work as having a dual mission, that is access to justice for individuals facing critical legal needs, but also systemic advocacy to change systems on behalf of a broader, larger number of people. We find ourselves now questioning if we're doing enough as a social justice, anti-poverty, and anti-racist organization. Are we doing enough to challenge the inequities highlighted by the current crises? In fact, many of the services that we're currently providing are even more critical or changed from 2019. The pandemic, racial tensions, and the economic situation has taken toll on our client communities. These crises highlight the very different experiences of various segments of our community, from access to health care, to safety, to support needed to meet basic human needs. Our staff is working to ameliorate some of the effects of these challenges. We have increased access to legal assistance for people seeking to obtain unemployment benefits and other essential income-related benefits. We did this by creating a training program enlisting volunteers from city employees to pro bono attorneys and sharing training materials with others statewide. Staff worked to assist people to claim stimulus benefits to which they were entitled, especially for people whose incomes were too low to file federal taxes. We have increased our advocacy around debt collection with the goal of preserving as much income for families as possible, particularly in these economic times. We're advocating for fair access to remote hearings. As most of you know, the courts went remote. Hearings are being held either telephonically or through Zoom, and many of our clients do not have access to minutes on a cell phone to be able to participate in a hearing or technology to be able to participate in a Zoom hearing. We're tackling a childcare system in crisis, with providers going out of business or struggling to stay afloat with the safety requirements and fewer children allowed. We're assisting parents who are struggling to retain rights to subsidized care so that they are able to return to work, or for an essential worker to be able to go to work with safe childcare in place. Together with others in the justice community, we have advocated for a moratorium on evictions and foreclosures in order to reduce the chance of homelessness during this pandemic. Now, we, like many in our community, are preparing for a tidal wave of eviction cases once the moratorium ends next week. Without knowing the impact of the resurgence of the virus, we are very concerned that people may not be afforded reasonable access to justice, given the sheer numbers and limited access to the courts and court services, to say nothing about the lack of affordable housing in many of our cities and towns. Safety issues are front and center. Our family law and elder law staff are working to ensure that while staying at home, people are free from domestic violence, abuse, and neglect, with full access to legal protections. Several of our practice groups have faced the trials of continued services, as usual, accompanied by new challenges due to the pandemic. One example, a woman we'll call Rumi filed for divorce on her own and came to GBLS because her husband, her abuser, was still living in the marital home and refusing to leave. He was threatening, scary, and controlling. He installed cameras in the home in order to track her movements. For Rumi, the COVID-19 crisis could not have come at a worse time. In early March, her case was moving swiftly and in a positive direction. Since the pandemic hit, court operations have slowed down considerably, and she had 3 court dates canceled and rescheduled. Originally, the court denied her request to order the husband to leave the home due to the pandemic. GBLS attorney negotiated with opposing counsel in order to rectify the situation, and the husband agreed to move out. Before our involvement, Rumi was a prisoner in her own home with no concept of her rights. Her husband made life very difficult for her, telling her that she would not get anything from him or a divorce. Since our involvement, Rumi has been stronger in the face of her abuser. She and her children have their rights protected and are beginning to feel safe. She's very relieved to have us in her corner and feels that she'll get through this with our help. We advocate for protections for people who are institutionalized and continue our advocacy on behalf of people who do not have documentation, who are facing the prospect of deportation to countries where they are at risk of harm or worse. In fact, the work of the Immigration Unit has continued unabated throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. This has included representation of individual clients before USCIS and immigration courts, because those courts never closed. They may have changed the way in which they were handling cases, but cases continued to go throughout the shutdown. Our immigration staff have conducted weekly remote hearings and weekly remote trainings for advocates, community partners, and lawyers. Know your rights presentations, particularly around the public charge, so that people could understand the impact of the changes in the public charge rule, which could bar their ability to obtain a green card in the United States. Prior to this pandemic, the goal of our education work was to ensure that low-income children of color, particularly those with disabilities, were able to access a meaningful education. We continue to have that goal, but the pandemic presents a new barrier preventing these children from accessing their education. When the schools closed in late March, our immediate goal was to clarify that these students had a right to appropriate education. Then we moved into advocating for our clients to receive the best remote learning possible to meet their needs. Now we're advocating for in-person services for families who want them and children who cannot have a meaningful remote learning experience. We want to ensure that children are taught how to follow new health and safety protocols and not be suspended from school because they're struggling. In short, legal aid advocates and other staff are working hard. Even though many are remote, we are assuring that people continue to have access to basic needs and support that the government is charged to provide. These challenges make us even more aware of the need to work towards eliminating racial biases that are a part of our societal fabric, and that creating fair access to civil justice requires undoing systemic racial barriers. At GBLS, we have made some deliberate attempts to address levels of unfairness in the education system and in the criminal justice system. Our education work, which I previously talked about, was designed to keep children in school and stem the flow of the school to prison pipeline, which disproportionately affects Black and brown children. We have a reentry project, which we've operated for some time to confront the disparities in the criminal justice system. We help clients seal and expunge criminal and juvenile records so that they may break the cycle of poverty, unemployment, and hopelessness that results from having a criminal record. We're also involved in systemic advocacy to make the sealing process more efficient and to bring about other changes that reduce recidivism and promote personal success, such as the regulations of occupational licenses. We are committed to becoming an anti-racist organization and strive to reflect racial justice and inclusion in all we do. We know the effects of bias and structural racism are even worse when they are woven into the justice system, weakening its capacity to safeguard fairness and justice. At its core, our mission is justice, and that is not possible to achieve in a culture of racism and structural inequality. We believe everyone deserves access to affordable, safe, and stable housing, quality education, health care, a sustainable source of income, fair treatment by financial or governmental institutions, access to what is needed to meet basic human needs, and freedom from violence. We cannot achieve true justice until the justice system and all stakeholders within it work together. To be a fair and just society, our systems must respect basic human rights, allowing all people to thrive and reach their potential. We know that with the support of the MBF and the commitment of its trustees, these goals are achievable. Again, on behalf of the people in the communities that we serve, we would like to thank the MBF and its trustees for its support. So thank you.
Jackie, thank you very much. I think we'll all agree that you were the ideal candidate to speak on behalf of our grantees this year. And for giving voice really to the need for legal services to low-income members of our community. I think the words that you just conveyed certainly resonate with all our grantees. This was a year in which I know a lot of our grantees were able to meet the minimal needs through surge capacity. But that surge has taken a toll on personnel as well as clients. And now we're in a position to reevaluate where we are right now, what are our needs, and how is our mission going to continue. As you know, the MBF each year hosts a Grantee Education Forum, and we'll do that again this year sometime in the fall or during the winter. And I ask for your thoughts with respect to what the subject matter of that forum might be, and how we might benefit our grantees by providing educational resources at this time. So, Jackie, thank you very much. Now, let's move to the President's Award for 2020. The MBF President's Award is given annually to an individual or organization who has gone above and beyond in their service to the MBF, as well as to the Massachusetts legal community. Through their leadership and commitment to increasing the access to justice for low-income people in the state. This year's award recipient is Paul Klehm. Paul is a person well known to many, as Denise said, in the MBA and MBF circles. His bio can be found in the program, and you'll see that he's an impressive fellow, an accomplished trial attorney, an active MBA member serving on as chair of the Civil Litigation Section and the House of Delegates. He gives back in many ways as well, volunteering with his high school mock trial program, giving free legal advice through Dialogue Lawyer program, and serving as a trustee of his church. Paul became an MBF Fellow in 2005 upon nomination by his partner, Jim Krasnoo, and Jim is here. Thank you for coming, Jim. He became a Brandeis Lead Fellow in 2011 and then a Brandeis Life Fellow in 2014. He's been an active member of the Northeastern Mass Grant Advisory Committee for the past 15 years. Although, as an aside, I have to tell you, when we approached Paul and told him that we were awarding him the President's Award for his 15 years of service, he said, well, you know, I missed 1 year. And he wanted that on the record. So We'll forgive you, Paul, but I don't know what could take precedence over the MBF during that year. Perhaps we'll find out. Paul has been a diligent and enthusiastic volunteer, a reliable and generous donor, and a cheerleader for the MBF's mission in Northeastern Mass and throughout the legal community. He's also, as you know, a gracious and humble guy with a great sense of humor, and by all accounts, he has deservedly earned the respect and admiration of his colleagues. For all of this, the MBF is proud to recognize Paul for his many years of outstanding volunteer service and his dedicated support of the Mass Bar Foundation and its mission. And so it is my honor, through the magic of telekinesis, to present the award, the President's Award, to Paul Klehm. Paul?
Thank you, Dick, for this award. And thank you for making up so many nice things about me. I appreciate that. I want to thank the Mass Bar Foundation, the officers, the board of directors, Susanna Thomas and Allie Ford, for selecting me for this year's award. You know, a couple of weeks ago, Denise Murphy was sworn in as the president of the Mass Bar Association, and we just heard from her. And while normally there's a reception and people are able to congratulate her in person, this year she stood up bravely in an almost empty room, and she spoke to a camera, through a camera, to a group of people watching on Zoom. And she gave this compassionate and confident speech about some initiatives that she's been working on for years. Initiatives like diversity, inclusion, and lawyer well-being, which she spoke about earlier. And these are issues that are especially crucial and timely this year. And so Denise is the right person at the right time to lead the Mass Bar Association. And in the same way, Dick, you're the right person at the right time to lead this foundation. You know, when COVID struck, which was right when this review process was beginning, and you took over, the Mass Bar Foundation recognized the need for the grantee process to move forward, and so that the grantees could help out all the low-income individuals and families who were so impacted by the pandemic. The foundation adapted, and some 90 reviewers, lawyers and judges who are fellows of the Mass Bar Association, stepped up and reviewed applications, just like in years past, but now it was a little different. We met with applicants by Zoom, and there were no in-person reviewer meetings. Yet the reviewers still wrote their reports and made their recommendations so that the foundation could issue the $2.6 million and disperse that to approximately 59 nonprofit organizations. I'm just one of those 90 reviewers. I can never measure up to the amazing work of Beth Lynch, who won this award last year. I mean, Beth ran this organization so well for almost 20 years, working with grantees and carrying trays of finger sandwiches to reviewer meetings all over the Commonwealth. By giving this award to me, a reviewer, especially this year, the foundation is letting all 90 reviewers know that we are appreciated and we are valued. Last year, I was privileged to spend some time at an orphanage in Ghana, West Africa. And one day, the pastor and I painted chairs with a group of teenagers who lived at the orphanage. And we tried to engage them in conversation, hoping to learn about their hopes and dreams, but they didn't want to speak to us too much. But we were happy at least to get the chairs painted. And a day or so later, we returned to the orphanage. And as we approached the building, I heard one of them yell out my name, Paul. And then they joined us outside. And it made me realize that sometimes painting chairs means more than just painting chairs. And sometimes the little things that we do can have a far larger impact on those whom we're trying to help. And when a group of volunteers works together to help others, each performing a small but important role, much can be accomplished. Each of the 90 reviewers performed a vital role in the grant review process, helping to direct funding to so many worthy organizations so that we may improve the administration of justice and work to ensure that everyone, especially the underserved, has equal access to the legal system. As a reviewer, I have an opportunity to meet with a number of wonderful nonprofit organizations throughout Essex County. I get to meet with people who are on the front lines of providing legal services to low-income people with immigration, domestic violence, educational, or child welfare needs, or who provide mediation services to help unclog our court system, a system that is even more clogged now because we haven't had jury trials in the last 6 months. As reviewers, we're supposed to remain objective, and so I probably won't be able to review this organization again, but I've had the honor of meeting with the Children's Law Center several times. And when you go to meet with Jay McManus at the Children's Law Center, the first thing you notice is his complete commitment to the work that he does. He's prepared, and he and his team are ready to justify every dollar that they've requested. You hear about their juvenile justice work, about their child welfare work, and about the impact litigation that they handle to try to make systemic changes in the courts to help children, particularly children from low-income families. I tend to leave these meetings restored in the confidence that there are selfless people out there who are fully committed to legal aid work and who give so much of themselves to help others, just like Jackie Bowman, who spoke a few minutes ago. And just like Liz Matos and Mario Paredes of the Prisoners Legal Services of Massachusetts, they're not even a group that I review. But before COVID struck, Liz and Mario took time to speak at a group that I chair, a committee I chair at the Mass Bar Association, about conditions at ICE detention centers. These are people who are so committed to what they do. I only wish that I could be so committed to a cause. With all the unrest and discord in this world right now, it is so encouraging to have the opportunity to meet with people who are fighting to turn problems into solutions for the underserved communities. Reviewers also get the chance, except for this year, to participate in these lively meetings with other reviewers in order to reach a consensus and a recommendation as to how the IOLTA funds should be spent. For many years, I have been privileged to meet with the likes of Beth Lynch and Ed Moriarty and Frank Ciano, Tony Pelusi, and Bob Ambrosi. And we get into these good-natured and fierce debates over finger sandwiches while we try to determine which applications should receive the funds and how much. All the time knowing full well that we don't make the final decision, but each person treats the money as if it were his or her own. I'm also restored by these viewer meetings. It's a great reminder that there are a lot of people out there who are willing to volunteer their time in the background purely for the purpose of helping others, without the expectation of receiving any honor or recognition in return. It is the very act of performing these reviews that is its own reward. I'd like to thank a few other people as I wrap up. My wonderful wife, Catherine, and my family for putting up with me. Jim Krasnoo, Ben Falkner, Betty Chappett, Ruth Kane, and Elaine Azzi of Krasnoo, Klehm, and Falkner, also for putting up with me. The staff at the Mass Bar Foundation and the Mass Bar Association, people like Joe Kachi, for the same reason. They are always there to answer questions, and I bother them a lot. And Marcia Kazarosian for helping me to become more involved in the Mass Bar Association. I accept this award as a representative of the 90 or so reviewers who paint chairs in the background, so that each reviewer will know that each of us does make a difference and that each one of us is appreciated. It is encouraging to hear one's name called out for recognition. Not everyone gets to hear that. Thank you.
Well, thank you for everything that you've done. And I think your statement just now perfectly captured the reward of being part of the MBF community. I know you share as a sense of concern for legal services and those to the poor that really are unmatched.
Yeah.
And it is a delight, as I said, to give you this award. But before we transition to the formal, from the formal portion of the program to the breakout sessions, we have a special guest who would like to provide a toast to Paul in recognition of the award. It's one of the, I understand, many brothers Klehm. Bob, would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, thank you, Dick. I'll make it quick. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. On behalf of Paul's 6 siblings, I want to say how proud we are that the Mass Bay Foundation has bestowed such a prestigious honor on our brother. I think of it as a reflection of years of effort by our parents to instill good behaviors in all of the children and to make us focus on the needs of the others before we turn inwardly. Our mom in particular will be very pleased to learn that at least one of our offspring actually listened to her daily coaching and heeded her advice. Now, I could spend hours telling you uplifting stories of how Paul reached out to family and friends in their time of need. But Paul's not a humble man, so I'm sure he's already shared these with you. Instead, I'll leave you with one that doesn't tell. Now, our mother was always very busy when we were young. You can imagine what it's like taking care of 6 kids and trying to keep the house clean and make dinner and all that stuff. Well, we didn't have daycare at that time, and my mother worked full time. I don't know how she did it. Often, to make things work, she would get creative in her tasks. For example, when she wanted to make dinner or she wanted to clean the house, she would place Paul in a harness and tie him to the garage door. She gave him about 10 feet of rope to wander, which was perfect length for his elder siblings to taunt him. I'd like to think this experience was fundamental in developing Paul's character. Just think, as a captive, he had to develop the skills of persuasion and debate. Those are his only tools available, tools that he has honed throughout his professional career and made him a highly professional, respected lawyer. We raise a glass to you, Paul, and to all of you who have helped to make the world a better place. Paul?
Hey, thanks,
Cheers.
Bob. I didn't expect that, and I just wanted to say thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Bob. That concludes the formal portion of the program. I want you to note, Susanna, it is exactly.
Look it. Perfect timing. Excellent. Oh, that's so great.
And I pass the baton back to Susanna.
That's great. Well, cheers, everyone, and thank you, Bob. And Paul, I hope you'll still talk to us. I have a feeling you might have not seen that surprise coming, but we're really glad to hear Bob's heartfelt words, and so grateful for all of our speakers here tonight. We're going to pivot to our breakout rooms, and we hope people will stay, again, just as a way to very informally gather. We're going to gather in smaller groups, 5 to 7 people, really informal, just a meet and greet and check in on how everybody's doing, and just a chance for us to chat with one another. It looks like we're going to have enough time to do 2 sessions. So I think we'll do, and Allie help me, maybe 2 12-minute sessions. So what will happen is Allie will push us into the rooms, and then we'll all come back together in a room, and then we'll go back into the breakout rooms. I'm sure most of you have had this experience already. And then we'll all come back together, and Dick will give us some parting words. So I hope that everybody has wonderful conversations, and certainly if you have a cocktail to bring, or a cup of tea, or a coffee, and just go relax and have wonderful conversations, and we'll see you back in the main room. So through the magic of Zoom, Allie will put us into our rooms.
Thank you all. You've been good sports. We didn't know how this was going to work out, and I certainly want to thank Allie and Susanna for not only the thought, but the implementation of this strange opportunity. And but I think we took advantage of it. I hope you did. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And the breakout sessions were wonderful to try to meet new people. And but as much as I enjoyed it, I look forward next year to an in-person reception with all of you. And we want to see 178 of you next year. So that's great. Just a couple of final comments. One is that if you look at your program, you'll see that there's information about a video scrapbook that Allie is putting together. This is, it takes very little of your time, but it gives us a sense of whether we're important in your lives, and if so, in what manner. So if you could do that, we would be eternally grateful, and I know Allie would as well. I want to leave by thanking Susanna and Allie. As we said, we weren't exactly sure how this was going to come off, but just like the process for grant making, you made it seem effortless. I think it's a real tribute to your talents that you've been able to do this. And so with that, I think we're pretty much on time. We thank you for everything that you do, and we'll do this again next year. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.